Hey, Mrs. Smith, I'm really glad you could meet with me today to talk about Alex. So yeah, I just want to kind of go over with you how he's doing so far this year. First of all, he's a really great kid. He's a joy to have in the classroom. Super helpful. For example, the other day one of the kids dropped their colored pencils and he jumped down and wanted to help them pick it up. Very polite. He always says please and thank you and all of that. When he works on his worksheets, he always has really nice handwriting, so that's something else that's really cool to see. He does struggle with a couple things, and I wanted to talk with you about those today. So I often find him out of his seat. I'll turn around in my instruction, and they know they're supposed to stay in their seats, and I'll find him up and moving around the room, going to get something, or without asking permission, or going to talk to a friend or something like that, another classmate. So I do have to remind him a lot to stay seated. Another thing is that he has to be reminded to get his work started. Now, like I said, when he gets it done, it's done really well, but it's getting started that's hard for him. Sometimes I'll come and I'll find him just like daydreaming or thinking about other things instead of doing the work. When I'm teaching, I'll often find that he's thinking of, his mind has gone somewhere else as well. He's daydreaming. I'll ask him a question and he won't have been hearing what I've been saying beforehand and won't know where we are in the lesson. So those are some of the concerns that I have. I also noticed that he plays by himself a lot during recess, and I know he's super friendly and good-natured, and so I would love to see him engaging more with some of the other kids. And I think he just has that big imagination. He's often kind of in his own world. But yeah, I was just kind of curious if you've seen some of these behaviors at home and what your thoughts are on them. Yeah, so that's interesting to hear. He's only a first grader, so we kind of think with the getting up and all of that, I mean, it's just like a phase he's going through, also the daydreaming. We're not too worried about that. I think he's going to grow out of it. To me, I don't know. I think, as a little 7-year-old, he'll be 7 in a month. So at that age, for a boy especially, I think it's really hard for him to sit that long, and I don't know how long you have them sitting in the classroom for each period, but I think he really needs some movement. So it might be a good idea to, I don't know, I just think it's too much to expect him to stay seated the whole time. So that might be something you have to think about in the classroom. So what I'm hearing you saying is you really feel like it's just because of how old he is, and you're worried that he's going to, it's kind of caused by how long he's sitting in the classroom. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. So I hear what you're saying. I understand he's highly energetic. He is used to moving around a lot. Especially since you guys did kindergarten through Zoom, right, because of COVID? Yeah, so he had a lot more breaks in there, and sometimes he wouldn't even sit for the screen. So I understand that this is like his first experience being in a first grade classroom where he has to sit so long. That makes sense. So my concern would be that this is a phase I think that he can work on and grow in, and it probably will not last forever, but I do think that it is something we need to be working on. Because you can get in the habit of not listening and daydreaming, letting your mind wander, and then it can be hard to retrain your brain to think and pay attention later on. So I think if we do work on that skill, that he can grow in that throughout this school year, and like teach him some of those strategies and be actively working on it instead of just waiting to see if he just comes out of it himself. I think that will really help him down the line. Yeah. Yeah, this is kind of his first main school experience after being kind of, a few days a week in preschool and some kindergarten programs. But yeah, I would really like to see him making some more friends and feeling like he has a place in the classroom. So yeah, and then with his work, I mean, again, the daydreaming I think is something. It's just because of how old he is, so I'm not too worried about that. But yeah, I don't know. What can we do about him making some friends and getting along better in the classroom? Yeah, I understand. You'd like to see him out there practicing some of those social skills then, right? Mm-hmm. So I was just curious, out of curiosity, with does he have friends at home? Is there something, someone that he plays with when he's at home a lot, or when he goes to the playground, do you see him engaging with the other kids? He's funny. He is, yeah, he's an only child, so he doesn't have any siblings, and when I do take him to parks and sometimes the neighborhood kids are out on our sidewalk, playing or riding their scooters. He's very friendly, he'll wave, he'll say hi, but he really just he likes his own little play world. He's got a good imagination. He's got some little imaginary story going on in his mind that he's a part of, and so he doesn't interact with the other kids too much, but he doesn't seem too unhappy about it. But I'd really like to see him making some friends, because there's so many good social skills I think he could learn, and even though he's kind and polite and everything, he's just kind of drawn into himself and is not learning some of those skills that he should have for interacting with others and sharing and joining somebody else's play and imaginary world. Okay, so you're saying he doesn't usually tend to go out there and try to find someone or initiate a friendship with some of the other kids in the neighborhood? Okay. So I've got a couple of ideas, and I would like to see what you think about them. First of all, I definitely hear your concern about his sitting time. While I would say I personally believe he is capable of sitting longer, I do want to meet him where he is in his comfort zone right now, and see if we can build up to being able to have a little more of the self-control and self-discipline. So what do you think about this idea? Let's say for now we build in some little break cards for Alex. So maybe every 10 minutes we can give him a little break card. He can go down and get a drink or something, or go and deliver a note to the school secretary, something like that, where he gets to move around the room and do something. Maybe it's a little task for me as a teacher. I need him to get something, deliver something, pick up some paperwork or something like that. And that way he knows that he can't just get up on his own. He needs to have the card, and it needs to be for a purpose or a reason that he's up and out of his seat. And we can just start with it being maybe every 10-15 minutes right now during the lesson, and then as time goes on, we see how he does with that. If he can stay in his seat in between those breaks, we can start maybe increasing the time until he is able to sit through the entire lesson, and maybe have only one break during a lesson. So I think the task cards is a really good idea. I would really like him to do that. Yeah, let's try that, and we'll see how he does, and maybe he could work up to sitting longer in the class. I can see how that could be helpful. The other thing I was thinking of is I do have a student in the classroom who is, she's a little older than the other kids, and she's really kind and compassionate, and I was thinking, what if we paired her up and we did kind of a buddy system with her and Alex, and it would be somebody that he could check in with, or she could check in with him and just see how he's doing throughout the school day, so that he would have someone to interact with. She can sit with him at lunch, and they can kind of start to form a bond, and he can get used to having those social interactions with some of the other kids. She can make sure he's getting played with during recess, and that is included in the different games and things going on, and kind of pull him out of his shell a little bit. The only concern, the only thing I worry about with having a buddy is that, he'll feel like somehow, I don't know, that she's more of not so much of a friend as like a mentor to him. I want him to make his own friends. I don't want her to feel like he's different, or he's a project that she has to help, and I just want him to be liked for who he is, I wish the other kids would just take an interest in his imaginary world. He might play with more kids, Mm-hmm. So you're saying you don't want him to feel, or you don't want the others to feel like somehow he's different and have to be forced to include him and work with him. You want it to be more voluntary on his part and their part. I can understand that. So something else that I think might be really good is we have a creative week coming up, and we're gonna have a game day in there, and I think it'd be really cool if Alex could come up with some imaginary games, you know, that to kind of introduce some of the other kids to the fun things he plays with him, you know, by himself, the little story games that he has going on. And I think if the other kids during that day, if he has, I'm going to have several kids present their ideas and introduce their game ideas to the other kids, and if he were one of them, I think they would really find an interest in all the cool things he's got going on in his mind. And I think that would really help him to start to feel like, and the others to feel like he's one of them. So why don't you, I'm going to talk to him as well, but why don't you start to get him interested about this event coming up, and would it be okay if I still have the one girl that I was talking about, the one student, be his buddy just for now, just to kind of have somebody that he feels like is in his corner right now? And then I'll keep checking in with him as well, and we'll do some more group games and things during recess, and then we can keep planning for that event for him so that he can kind of share some of his imagination with the other students. How does that sound? Well, I really like that. Yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do that. Yeah, for now, just have her be his buddy and somebody he can go to. I think that would be fine. And then, yeah, if we have that event, I like that idea. Then he'll get a chance to kind of share who he is and get the other kids to get to find out just what an interesting and cool child he is. And I think he'll feel like he's more one of them after that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your help and your understanding in this process. Absolutely, and yes, Alex is such a cool mind and imagination. He's really nice to have in the classroom and work with, and I think he's really gonna grow a lot this school year.